So what then our police chief came on board, our new police chief, Mr.
Kimball.
Mr. Kimball, right.
Yeah.
And so I did write 2 letters to the editor of Killeen Daily Herald, and in my my first letter was in questioning about this case and about so many of the details seemingly not just, and due process and things like that. And the second letter, I was appreciative that a police chief was finally found, and that hoping that this new chief coming on board would be using research-based practices and having new innovative methods for policing, which again I'm in admiration of the police departments everywhere as far as the tough job they have and the how they are needed. But I was hoping that that there would be no more no-knock searches being conducted in the Killeen area, as it, being more risk to all involved than apprehension of criminals. And as it turned out, just as we just said, early this year there was a no-knock.
James Reed.
Yes, and that again there was a death, and so I'm a little disappointed in my community, city area, seemingly going with more dangerous procedures, and that was a concern.
You do know that Claythorpe was fired.
Okay, I thought he resigned.
No. He didn't resign.
Okay,
that's
what you call.
I watched the meeting. He didn't
involuntary
resign.
resignation.
Yeah, he did not resign. No,
because of this case.
Yes.
Which to me speaks to a larger, more ominous, horrific thing. Have we become so corrupt in our city and in our criminal justice department that they can't stand to have a light shine on them? So a lot of bad things had to have happened. Mm-hmm. One, the police department, our public servants someone feel they had the right to say, no, we will not be exposed to the light. 2, our city government had to back up this bad decision from our paid servants. Mm-hmm. The servants are now telling the people who pay them what to do. No. And then in turn, they went to Mr. Thorpe's employer and said, hey, if you keep this employee on who is doing his job and investigating and shining a light, then bad things may happen to, KPD or your reporters, or we're not going to talk to you anymore. You don't get the right to say you're not going to talk to us anymore. You don't get the right to work in the dark. You're my paid servant. Police officers are public servants. Our servants have run amok.
Yes.
And it's time that we either defund them so that they get back in line. And there's ways to do that. They can police themselves easily by every time there is a complaint about police officers, complaining to the police about the police has never worked.
Right.
So you bond them. You bond them from their pension funds, not from the city funds, from their pension funds, right? So that if a police officer is a bad actor, then they lose $1 million from their pension fund to the victims off the top. Eventually, police officers will say, hey, stop acting bad because it's costing us money.
Right.
The ability to fire police officers for bad actions should not take a long process. Now it does, because the police union is a small mafia. They've taken over nationally. So, and there's a union of our servants.
Yes.
Right? So we now live in fear that my servant, who I'm paying his salary, may one day come through my house at Odock 30 to serve a no-knock warrant on an informant whom I may have never met.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously does not know my house. right?
Yep.
And I may be forced into a position where I may have to defend my house against my servants, and they get charged from the crime protecting my own life.
Right.
If my life matters, any life, okay, I ain't gonna say Black Lives Matter, any life matters. If your very first duty is to protect your own.
That's it.
Okay? And this is my home isn't very big, but it's mine. And it's my castle, in which I am the king.
That's true.
And the very first duty of the king of the castle is I will defend the walls to the death. Right? So, in doing that, do I become a danger to police officers because I don't want someone breaking? Who's paying for the window that you broke?
That's true.
Who's paying for the door you kicked in?
That's it.
I want a brand new door and brand new windows. I ain't got no cheap windows either. All my windows got a match. You can place them all.
And those 55 shell casings, they hit something.
They hit something.
They hit something.
All my walls need to be replastered.
They hit something.
And that's paid to by the city funds.
But also what you don't hear about. Okay, you heard about it with the guy in the New York Times article, but it never appeared in the Killeen article that the officer stuck his gun down Marvin's throat. That never appeared in any.
I didn't know that one.
Yes, that never appeared in any Killeen Daily Herald's ad in papers.
Right.
But the guy from the New York Times did an extensive story, not only on Marvin, but he did it on No Knocks all the way down.
Yeah.
And he included Marvin's, and in there when he interviewed Marvin before the gag order, Marvin told him that one of the officers had Marvin on the floor, on his knees, and held a gun down his throat. We never knew that as far as KPD was concerned.
See? Now, is that officer still on KPD today?
By accident, yes. Sheer accident, yes, he's still there.
And that's no accident.
I'm saying.
and to me,
he's still there.
And that's the second part of my distaste for modern policing. A guy held. I didn't know this first time I'm hearing that story, so I'm going to go with this story. So a police officer has a guy on the floor, probably in handcuffs, and he puts a gun, open your mouth, he puts it in his mouth. There are other officers, all of them, sitting around watching this happen and doing nothing to stop it.
That's right.
And the police videos you see of horrific beatings and strange things, there's usually one guy who's out of control, just laying waste to somebody, and maybe 3 or 4 other officers standing around with their hands in their pocket watching it. The guy who laying waste to that person is bad. The one y'all sitting around watching it is worse.
Yeah.
And they don't want the crowd to put a stop to it, so they stop the crowd from putting a stop to the guy who's obviously maxing out a team, bashing his head against a wall or something, or doing something crazy. So you now become a gang in blue.
Right.
You we're gonna beat this guy to a pulp, and the crowd can't stop us. That's a lie. I'm gonna say, listen, hold accountability to your servants. One servant is bad, remove him. The rest of y'all who are watching, you got to go too.
Yes.
Find a new employment, because obviously you're not protecting and serving the community.
True.
You're protecting and serving your other officer. You're here to protect and serve the community, and that guy who's getting beaten to a pulp for no reason is your community too. So you could have came, grabbed your officer, say, "Yo, man, you're not doing it. You're too wound up. Step back." We're all human, right? And I think that's the problem, is that we have elevated our police officers to this angelic force that can do no wrong. They wear halos. They will not lie. They will not chill. They will not steal. They will not kill unless they absolutely have to. If they have to lie, steal, and kill, they will. But they have the halos. And when they come in, whatever they do has to be right, because they're police officers. Right? They can't. They don't get angry. They don't have a bad day. They don't have problems at home because they're police officers.
They're perfect.
They're perfect. They're perfect human beings. We start to believe this, right? So when we see an officer beating someone to a pulp or having the gun stuck down his mouth, he must have deserved it. That's what we think,
right,
as a society. And there's something so wrong with that we are now enablers to an occupying force of our servants who have run amok, and with no checks and balances to stop them. What is a citizen's recourse if we have a problem with an officer? What can we do? We can go, I have a problem with the police officer, so I'm going into police to talk about the police officer.
It's not going to work.
When did that work?
That never worked. Never. When did that work? That's never.
So without recourse through a justice system, what alternatives are left to us?
Now you know what? What the one thing we can do, we can do it. I mean, we can do it like right today. Is we can request that the Texas Rangers look at his case, because as we know, they didn't.
They did.
They were never asked to.
An officer involved shooting, the Texas Rangers weren't asked.
No, they weren't.
Oh,
so we can actually write a letter or call the Texas Rangers and ask them to look into it.
Right.
Okay.
We can still do that.
Yes.
That's one thing that we can do, because we know when they looked into James Reed's case, we know what happened.
Yes.
The cop is now indicted, and they found out that he started the shooting in the back of the house to make them think that James was shooting, and actually the cop back there in the house, back behind the house, was shooting. So the Texas Rangers found that out. So yes, as citizens, we can still get Texas Rangers to come over the case.
So listen, everyone under the sound of my voice, pay attention to this. The person's name is Marvin Guy. You want the Texas Rangers to look into the case. Now, it's been at least 4 years.
Yes.
But whatever evidence they are still holding him on still exists.
Yes.
And the details of the case, because his girlfriend should still be alive.
Yes, she is.
Hope she's still alive by the time he goes to trial.
Oh, yeah.
And Marvin is still in jail.
In a wheelchair.
With no trial date. He's in jail in a wheelchair with no trial date. That should be the most disturbing thing you've ever heard in your life.
Now, you do know what happened with his first trial date.
Yes, I do. All of a sudden, yes. I remember, because Bell County has not ever had a capital case that didn't involve an all-white jury.
Right.
And
so his attorney, Anthony White, when he realized that there had never been a capital trial in Bell County, the jury had always been white. Always. Well, Anthony Smith objected to that.
Right.
And he did his research to find out that in Bell County, every capital murder trial, the jury was always white.
As jury selection and jury of your peers.
Yes. So, no. So anyway, Anthony got it thrown out, which meant they had to recharge Marvin Guy. What everybody don't realize, they had to recharge him because Anthony got the whole thing thrown out for that one fact that the jury was all white. So if you read the article, if everybody read it correctly, you were seeing that they had to recharge him for the second time because this successfully got thrown out. So now he will be retried again in a trial that he never got tried on because of the one huge technicality of Anthony Smith proving that all the juries were always white.
And so that was a question I had in my mind as far as would there be a change of venue? You know, would
move it from somewhere else?
Yes,
no, that would be worse.
Yeah, that's what I came to be told. But I was thinking that out of the area where there is not, you know, this is so highly emotional and like we say, like John was saying, like we have this idea that there's always the good guys and the bad guys, and the police are always the good guys, always, you know, taking care of the bad guys, criminals. So I was just thinking that in a whole new situation where these facts were presented, that there maybe would be like an unbiased approach. It seems like, well, of course, not everybody knows about the situation who lives here, but it seems like it's a polarizing issue. You're either, if you question any of the police tactics and insinuate or say that, well, maybe the police department put their own department at risk with the no-knock approach, and that is police tactics. I know Mr. Guy himself had a civil suit against
yes, he did.
Against the police department, certain officers, and named certain officers.
Yes.
And that and part of his accusation was that the department did not use effective principles or used unsafe practices and too much unsubstantiated approach to it, that they were not using successful tactics.
But you know, you got to look at this case in another way, and a way that you're not looking at it, and a way that I'll say me and John would look at it, is this: the cop that Marvin shot was white.
Right.
So forget the politics part. Forget all of that. There's a black man shot a white cop. They picked an all-white jury because that all-white jury would most likely agree with the police because they're the same color. That's an analogy of it, because you got to look at that always. When you look at how something goes, you got to look at the whole picture and not a piece of the picture. So they're thinking if they would have had a jury of African Americans and Hispanics and then some whites, for them that's a scary jury right there.
Well, and when you say they, you're talking about the prosecution.
Correct.
The DA, the district attorney, which seems to have so many cards on that end. It seems like our justice system is set up for the prosecution as far as having the way that it can fall. So so many cards, not cards, but so many practices that make the prosecution move. And just thinking,
you know, as people who vote, you know, we accidentally vote. Sure, accident. We fall into and we vote.
We hope
the highest person that we never seem to think about getting rid of is your district attorney.
Exactly.
We fail every time it's an election. We fail as people before the election. I'll put it this way: to find someone to run for the district attorney's office. That's the most powerful office in your county.
It is.
That is it. Everybody said no, but it is. The county judge, no. Your district attorney is the most powerful person in your county, because he or she can decide this fate, that fate, can hold it up like they've been holding up Marvin since 2014. Gee whiz, 2014. You know, it's ridiculous, but he has the power to do that, and he can do that by simply working with the police department to keep the issues over here. And it started with Dennis Baldwin, because Dennis Baldwin was the chief at that time.
Yes.
And and I don't know if you know, but every time they try to subpoena Dennis Baldwin, he seemingly couldn't be found.
Sounds like our current administration in the White House.
He couldn't be found. But what I want to ask is, John. Okay, I've been knowing John for like, I don't know. I think we all met at Barbara Days. Obviously.
But my hair was short. I made a 100-pound lighter.
So I'm gonna blame. I'm gonna say him, not me. But always controversy. I'm not going to admit to that. I'm not. You know, not today. I'm not. But John, what made this heightened for you? Because out of the blue, John's like, "Gotta create a show."
Well,
I was like, "Okay."
I would admit it was partly my not following the case. I followed it when it first started, then I fell off because so many other bad things happened since then. And then when the article came out, I want to say about 2 weeks ago, in Killeen Daily Herald, saying that Mr. Guy was still in jail with no trial date, I was enraged. I was like, what the heck? And then because I remember a trial date being set, and I said, okay. And for a while it was hot, and then it disappeared. And I admit there's so much that goes on sometimes that I lose sight of certain cases, and I try to follow as many as I can. And this being in my hometown, and me thinking that this had been cleared up, and either he was adjudicated and set free, or and then when I said no trial date, what in the world? Then I started backing up and being like, why there was no trial date? Because we couldn't have seat an all-white jury. We didn't have a trial. Wow. And this is happening in the place where I live. So I'm a big guy who says, do more than just videotape. Do more than just watch. We can't use the same tactics of the Martin Luther King area where we're just marching, singing, and that's it, because that's not working anymore. They've changed their playbook, so we have to change ours. And what it really goes down to is our government has to be held accountable, and your city government is the ones you have the most power over election over. Your city councils, your chief of police, your district attorney, your judges. And if you want justice, do more than just march and sing. First, get up out of your position of comfortability, which is your armchairs and your couches, and you go vote. Right? You go vote for your interests. The second thing to do is, once you vote, you have to hold those people accountable. Never give them any peace. Maxine Waters said, hound them when you see them in the restaurants. Hound them. Hound them. Hound them. Give them no peace. Wherever they go, expose them. Show pictures of them. Show their faces. Make sure that no one forgets who they are, what they did, and what they're trying to do. Right? And in the case of Mr. Guy, that's so important. Find out who the district attorney is. Let's get pictures of him so people can identify this man.
Henry Garza.
Let's get pictures of him so people can identify him. He can walk down in HEB, you never know it, because nobody knows what he looks like.
Right.
That's what they have no idea what he looks like. He's your paid servant. Find out what's going on.
I'm going to tell you what I asked a commissioner. I'm not going to name this commissioner, because you two will figure it out as soon as I tell you what he did. He's a new commissioner. So I decided, you know what, let me email him, because he's my commissioner, right? Yeah. So I asked, how much money has Bell County spent on Marvin Guy? Now, that's a question the commissioner can answer, correct?
Yeah, he can research that question.
And couldn't he give me the answer, right?
Yeah, he might not get off the top of his head, but he could research and see how much this cost us so far.
So that's what you would think you do, right? Yeah. No.
You can get back to you, though.
Yes, he did, but guess what he told me to do? He told me to file an open records request. He told me to do it. That's something that he could have done. Not file open records request. He can go get the information for me.
Yes.
No, he told me to file open records request. Like, I could have did that on my own.
For you.
But I wanted to see what could he do if I knew. So now I found out that he can't. And won't.
Or won't.
And didn't. So I know what side he's on right now.
Yeah.
So it's time for me to fire him up.
So, no, you post his picture. Post his name. Give him no peace. You have to hold your people accountable, especially if you elect people, and that's what gets people reelected.
You're sitting there figuring out who is my newly elected commissioner.
Should be I think I know.
You do.
Yes.
Say the name. Say his name.
Oh, you want me to say his name? Really? John Driver? John Driver is my commissioner. He is my commissioner. And I did write him, and he just told me to follow up her records request. So thank you, John Driver.
Yeah, you say thank you, John Driver, for that.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
So that's what that commissioner.
Keep his name in your prayers at night.
Yes, so he told me to do it on my own.
He's an
elected official. Remember, we voted. Some people voted him in.
Definitely know he's elected.
He's elected.
Yes.
So, and that's the thing. You're elected. The people we elect have to be held accountable to the community, right? To the people who elected you. If you're not working for me, you're working against me.
Yeah.
And I just don't know, any other way besides posting pictures of them so people will know who they are. That's the biggest thing. People work in a layer of indifferent secrecy. We don't care to know who they are, and we don't care to get involved so they can do what they want, because who's going to stop me?
Yes.
And not only from our citizen involvement. Oh, what about our groups like ACLU, like the NAACP locally? Do we not have the involvement?
You should challenge them.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way.
I didn't even go to NAACP.
But you know what? I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it straight. Nobody's going to believe I would say that, but the NAACP, LULAC, and all these other organizations remain laxed because it's back to our faults again. When is the last time we've been to the meeting and challenged them? Or do we just say, you know what, they're crazy and I'm going to leave them over there? Most of the time what we say is they're crazy and I'm going to leave them over there. But when do we become involved and go challenge? You know, when do we go and ask the NAACP, why y'all not working on Marvin Guy's case? When do we ask LULAC, why you not working on this? ACLU will work on something if you send them a letter, that they will. But if we don't ask these groups to do anything and they're remaining lax, then it becomes our fault because we've allowed it.
Well, I'm going to say this with it, and then hear me, NAACP. This is not. It's John Crow. Y'all know me now. The problem with those groups, I'm going to go NAACP because this is the one I've had the issue with.
Yes.
Isn't that it's hard for me to convince young people to get involved with you when we don't see you doing anything. So then you become a non-existent group of old folks who are still holding to the MLK doctrine, right? That's the impression people have of them.
Right.
So what do we see you do? You have an NAACP banquet once a year. And I attend. I get fancied up and put on the suit that's way too hot and sweat through my clothes and eat some cold chicken. But then the next month, I don't see nothing from you.
Right.
I don't see you taking up a cause like Mr. Guy's. I don't see you, putting forth the effort, applying political pressure nationally, right, to get these cases brought to the light. I don't see it. So then when they ask, why don't I join you? Because I join people who are doing something. Right. And if I go in there and I'm radical, y'all gonna shut me down. If I bring my friends, y'all gonna hate all of us. We a new group. We're a splinter cell.
But that's what needs to happen. That's what a group of 5 or more need to go in that I like mine and go bam.
Yeah.
And make this because I say the state. I know what we do because I'm the state education chair. So as far as the state's concerned, I do know what we do, and we do a lot. But the problem of what happens with the state is that if a branch doesn't bring an issue to the state, we can't jump over their head.
Right.
I can't go into your area and say, you know what, I'm gonna handle this because you're not. Let's get hurt. I mean, you got wiggle room to kind of finagle things and get it done, but when the branch doesn't make a big issue of something, it's hard for the state to do.
That would make sense.
Except for when you have somebody like me around.
But if that's it, we have a myriad of organizations. We have, you name it, Greek guys who do wonderful step shows.
Yes.
But I don't see them out there, protesting what matters. If you name each Greek fraternity or sorority you want to, they should be involved in doing this rather than telling me I need to attend an all-white party. Okay? Well, I'm dressed in white. Really? That's what you want me to do? But John, but I need y'all to do something more for me. And it's not against any one organization. It really isn't.
Right.
And I'm talking about organizations as a whole, all of our historic organizations who we expect to have lawyers in your alumni, who we expect to have, judges in your alumni, right? I expect you guys, when there is a call to action, to take action. NAACP, I know y'all got lawyers on staff. So why is Mr. Guy fighting to get representation? What's the problem here? Is his case not clean enough for you?
Right.
All right? Is his story not compelling enough for you? Right? You name it. ACLU, where you at? Is his case not clean enough? Is it not compelling enough? Is it a little bit too dark? I don't know. But I need to hear from you.
The one thing that we need to change is our own mindset. Because if you leave, and we're on Marvin Guy. We'll stick with Marvin Guy. Okay, the first thing you heard about Marvin Guy was he was a drug dealer. Okay, then you heard another thing about him. He had a gun. They painted this horrific picture about this man, to make you think, to almost say he deserves to be in jail because of the negative picture that they portrayed.
Yeah.
We need to stop looking at that picture that they're portraying. But unfortunately, that picture stays in there. He's a drug dealer. He had a gun. He killed an officer. Oh my God, he's bad. He deserves whatever he gets. We need to stop looking at that picture. We need to look at the facts and not the picture. We need to look at what happened versus these negative things. But the paper always prints, and I say they get it from the interviews from the police department. They paint this negative picture first. We buy it, lock, stock, and barrel, and ignore the person.
Yes.
Well, we need to, put our brains back into working gear and realize that they're paying that for a reason. So you're disgruntled. This one over here. You won't care about Marvin because you know what? He shot a cop, killed him, shot one in the knee. Oh my God! And he's a drug dealer. First of all, no drugs were found in this house, so it's hard to call me a drug dealer when no drugs were found in my house. Mm-hmm. No residue, no nothing.
No nothing.
But I'm a big time drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to stop looking at that picture and buying that picture that they paint of somebody that's negative. Because I talked to a young man about Marvin Guy, and I'm not going to say the young man's name because you know him. But I was talking to him about Marvin Guy, and the first thing he told me, this is what he said. He said, well, he was a drug dealer. He tore up the streets. He was beating people, he shot people, da-da-da-da. He named all these things that Marvin Guy had did. I'm like, okay, but does he deserve what's going on now? So he stopped. He goes, I said, all right. Yes, he was a drug dealer. Let's say
he did all that.
I say, but does he deserve what's going on now? So he stopped. He looked at me. He said, no, that was kind of, that wasn't right, because he named all the reasons why this isn't right. Mm-hmm. That he said, no, that's not right. They shouldn't have, shot up his house like that. He said, besides, how we know those shots killed the cop, not the police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Friendly fire.
The police said this is what happened, and we believe that.
Yeah, and so we talked about all that. So, he, at that point, got caught in the middle of, I know this Marvin Guy. Now, that is true. What happened, what's going on with him isn't right. You know what I mean? So I didn't say I swayed him over to another side, but I opened up his mind to where he got rid of the fact of, that's the guy you saw doing this. And I'm like, we're not putting any roses on Marvin Guy. We're not saying he's the perfect person. We're talking about the issue of what happened.
Yes.
So we need to learn to talk about the issue at hand rather than this painted picture that we always see. Because we are very good at that.
Oh, yeah.
And we know people who are very good at that. And it goes to a jury. You know what I mean? And picking them.
Well, the first place it's tried is a court of public opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's before it's tried in the legal system. It's tried in the court of public opinion. Mm-hmm. And it's tried in the newspapers and the TV. And they paint a picture. The problem with that, we don't get the whole side of the picture.
Right.
They'll go back to someone's high school records to find, he had a fight in high school. Mm-hmm. He must be a violent person. But do you put that same light on the police officer who he said, hey, this guy had 15 complaints of brutality against him before he got shot? Could he have been could something had been going wrong? Was he anxious to get through that window to get to him?
Yeah.
Right? This guy put a gun in Marvin Guy's mouth. Mm-hmm. What has he done before that incident? Was this the first incident?
Right.
So we get this one-sided picture that makes everybody looks like a bad actor and a drug dealer or whatever it is they want to portray you as, which may not be the case. But we don't get that same level of scrutiny on the other side of the badge. Say, hey, what was this guy doing? When are those records going to be opened up so we can see how many people have accused him of something?
Right.
And all of a sudden the police didn't find any reason for the accusation. Right? How many people have said that this guy was a bad actor in high school, and now that he's a police officer, he was a bully then, he's a bully now, right? So we don't see the whole picture, and this is not just Killeen. That's nationally.
Yeah, it is.
It's nationally. We don't see this whole picture. So I'm very skeptical now of the picture that's painted to me on the first press accounts. I'm very skeptical of it. Because I don't believe it, because that's not the person's entire existence, right? And if I hear about what a person X did in high school and college that was bad, right? I need to hear the same thing about what person Y, the law enforcement person, does, who was a bully in high school, bully in college. Maybe he got a couple of DWIs. And now he's a law enforcement officer, and he's out there beating people in the street.
Yeah.
You shot 57 times at Mr. Guy and didn't hit him once. He shot 4 times at you and got 2 of you.
It doesn't make any sense.
So who going to the range and who not?
Well, we've had a good show, and it's coming to an end. And I know we have more to talk about.
All right.
But we could do part 2 of this, because part 2 is going to be after all of us have written the Texas Rangers.
Yes.
We're going to come back and talk about what
the Texas Rangers today.
We're going to come back and find out what did the Texas Rangers say after we write them and say something to them where we want to open it up. Then we're going to come back, and also we're going to come back and talk about the judge the scientist warrant, and that he's still a judge.
He's still a judge.
He's still a judge.
So if another judge isn't a judge anymore,
talk about that.
She had excessive bail, but this guy just signed a warrant to get people killed. But okay.
So I want to say goodbye, and Madison wants to tell everybody goodbye. Say goodbye.
Goodbye. And thank you for listening.
I like that. That was cute. Okay, I want to thank everyone for listening to Kids Community Connections, and I hope you learned a whole lot today, and we got some marching orders to do, and I know we're going to go and do them. I know we are, because when the 3 of us come back again and sit down, we're going to say whatever we learned from the Texas Rangers. But I want you to have a great day, and I want you to always remember, you cannot lead a positive life with a negative mind. We'll talk to you next Sunday. Bye now.